Alright, let's get this over with, because I've got to go for a final in like an hour. The Rise of Skywalker is on its way, and it looks... I don't even know if it looks good or not. I'm praying it's going to be good, but I really don't know, man. But in order to celebrate the end of the Skywalker saga, I decided to watch every Star Wars movie and rank them in this video, mostly because it's trending, and I want to milk views, and also because I really don't want to study for finals. So for this list, I watched, in order of release, the first 8 Star Wars movies, and the 2 anthology movies. I didn't have time to watch the shows, except for The Mandalorian, but that's not on this list because it's not all the way out yet. And I also didn't watch any of the TV movies, because those are legally considered cruel and unusual punishment, and I don't hate myself that much. And like the MCU video where I did the same thing, I'm going to talk about each movie for a bit, and then give it a percentage that's between 5% because I don't like giving exact scores. But unlike the last video, I will also be giving these movies an ironic score as well, because some of these movies aren't very good, but they can be enjoyed just to shit on it and just how much fun they are, especially when you watch with friends. Especially if you are a fellow intellectual who occasionally indulges in some fine and dignified prequel memes. You should watch my videos where I just do that about the prequels. These movies are also ranked in order I would rather watch them in, and not in actual quality or ironic quality. So without further ado, let's begin the list. At the very bottom of this list, being the worst Star Wars movie, is The Last Jedi. I already made a whole video about that movie, and I won't talk about it for very long. You can just go watch that video. I really hate this movie. Its whole thing is that it subverts your expectations, but my expectations were only subverted because you managed to mess it up this badly. This movie is just a stupid, pointless mess. The only parts I like are between Rey, Kylo, Luke, and sometimes Snoke, but I could really take or leave them. They're not that good. I don't think this movie butchered Luke's character like some people do, but it really didn't do him any favors. Also, everybody's an idiot. Poe, Holdo, Rose, Finn, everybody's just a moron. I hate this movie. I give this movie a 45 to 50%, with an ironic score of 50 to 55. It's not even saved by memes. Next up is Attack of the Clones. You already know this movie's bad, and you already know why it's bad. Anakin and Padme are insufferable, boring idiots. They're painful to listen to. The writing is just a mess throughout this whole movie. But what keeps this movie from being the worst Star Wars movie is Obi-Wan's little subplot with Kamino. It's either funny as hell, like the scene with Dex, or genuinely cool and interesting, like everything to do with Kamino and Jango Fett. Their little dogfight above Geonosis is really cool, and this is the coolest sound ever.
There was a ghost! There's ectoplasm! Did you see the ghost? It ran through here, it slimed me!
The Battle of Geonosis is also really cool, and it's made better by some of the games that have come out since. However, the fight between Count Dooku and Anakin and Obi-Wan and later Yoda is bad. It's the worst lightsaber fight in all of Star Wars. It's uninteresting, it's not even a cool fight, it's just dumb. Some of the not-so-good lightsaber fights are at least hilarious, but this doesn't even have the benefit of being unintentional comedy gold. I give this movie a 50 to 55%. It's bad, but with an ironic score of 80 to 85%, because memes. The Phantom Menace. This movie is just boring. It's rarely bad, it's mostly just uninteresting. People just talk about politics the whole time, and I watch movies to avoid politics, not to watch space politics. Not even interesting space politics. Clone Wars at least has some interesting political episodes that don't make me want to die. Also, Jar Jar is the worst. You already know that. No disrespect to Ahmed Best, however, I love you, man. The characters in this movie are also boring. Qui-Gon is pretty cool, I guess, and Obi-Wan's alright in this, but Padme, Anakin, and everybody else, it is boring. However, the only reason this movie is above Attack of the Clones is the duel with Darth Maul. It's literally one of the best sword fights in all of cinema. It's really good. I would say there's only one lightsaber duel that's better. In the movies anyways, there's a couple really good ones in Clone Wars. And it's the end of Return of the Jedi. Anakin vs. Obi-Wan is not better than those two before people yell at me in the comments. I rate this movie a 55 to 60%, with an ironic score of 70 to 75%. Solo, a solo story. This movie isn't exactly bad, but it's not particularly great either. Alden Ehrenreich, I don't know if I said his name right, and Donald Glover were fantastic as Han and Lando. But really, I could take or leave all the other characters, except Chewie. This is the best portrayal of him, because he gets treated as an actual person in this movie when he usually doesn't. Beckett and Dryden were pretty cool too, I guess. I don't really know. They killed the coolest characters right off the bat, and they left us with some way more uninteresting ones. The best scene is the Mimban battle, and that further cements the fact that we need a movie about stormtroopers. where they don't rebel. Sorry, I just really hate that campaign. But back to Solo. They cut out some of the scenes that really should have been in the movie, and I really, really hate how Han gets his name. Also, the Darth Maul reveal is rendered pointless because of Rebels. It would have been really cool if Rebels didn't kill him off. And I like how they kill him off in Rebels. But we know how the story ends, so this cliffhanger is just meaningless. The rest of this movie isn't bad, it's mostly just mediocre. It feels more of a generic space heist than a Star Wars movie. I don't know. This movie's good enough, don't get me wrong, it's not bad. I give this movie a score of 70 to 75%, with an ironic score of 60 to 65%. It's alright. The Force Awakens, one of the biggest hype moments of my entire life. Did this movie pay off for waiting so long for Star Wars to properly return to the big screen after 10 years? I mean, it's alright. People's biggest complaint is that this movie pretty much just follows the same plot of A New Hope, and that's a valid complaint. But that's kind of the whole point, right? Like, the prequels weren't good. So the whole point of this movie was to say, hey, those movies you didn't like, they're gone now. You don't gotta worry about it. Star Wars is back, baby. And the next movie was supposed to take their original and cooler ideas from this one and expand on those instead of the things from the original trilogy as much. I mean, Last Jedi doesn't do that, but it was supposed to. But we're still talking about Force Awakens, not Last Jedi. This movie's still good by itself. It's fun, the characters are likable, the action is pretty good, it's a good time. Also, Rey is not as bad as a Mary Sue as some people say she is. She still is a Mary Sue, don't get me wrong, and she's worse than Luke or Anakin was, but she's not as bad as a lot of people say she is. I give this movie a 70 to 75%, with an ironic score of also 70 to 75%. Return of the Jedi. What was supposed to be the end of the saga, but several $1 billion later, and here we are at the third conclusion of the saga. This movie is pretty good, but it's not great. Pretty much the whole beginning at Jabba's palace is dumb. Luke doesn't have a plan, he just sends his friends in to get pointlessly captured, and then he wings it. And if he does have a plan, it's a stupid, overconvoluted plan. Also, Boba Fett goes out like a little bitch, he's kinda wasted in canon. Also Ewoks. I don't have to explain myself, they're dumb and out of place. This whole movie just feels so much more of a kid's movie than the first two. That isn't to say the others aren't for kids, of course they are, but they're more serious. Just look at the character designs in Jabba's palace, for example. We got pig people, we got little blue magicians, we got weird droids coupled with teddy bears later. These just feel like they're from the Dark Crystal or Labyrinth or something along those lines. Also, most of the acting is not good. It's just not. However, for all the not so great, it's never bad, sometimes just not so fantastic, there is amazing as well. Pretty much as soon as they leave Tatooine, Luke becomes the best character so far. His journey from Dagobah to the Death Star is pretty much single-handedly takes this movie from being just kind of mediocre to being pretty good. The scene between the Emperor, Vader, and Luke is absolutely top tier. As I mentioned, it's the best lightsaber duel. It's really good. Also, the space battle is one of the best in Star Wars. I give this movie a 75 to 80%, with an ironic score of 70 to 75%. Revenge of the Sith. This movie is an absolute disaster, and I love it so much. This movie is unintentionally comedy gold, it's so funny. The writing and acting is so bad that it's amazing, I love it so much. This movie also has some of the best battle scenes in the whole saga as well, they're unironically good. Also, Order 66 is really cool, but really only after you've seen Clone Wars or read novels or comics or whatever, because you really have no emotional connection to anybody otherwise. Palpatine is also amazing in this movie. The scene where he reveals himself to Mace Windu does a 720-degree flip. It's so fucking funny. I don't know why they thought this was a good idea, but I'm so glad they did. Anakin versus Obi-Wan is an overrated fight though. It's so long, it just becomes uninteresting. Until the end, where it's just comedy gold again. This movie tells a really good story, just in the most incompetent way possible. It's a terrible movie, but it's so good. I give this movie a real score of 65 to 70%, with an ironic score of 95 to 100%. I love it so much. Alright, last three, we're in the end game now. Rogue One, or Rouge One, because some people can't spell. The writing in this movie is not that good. I wouldn't really say it's bad, but it could have been a lot better. Also, they never have the main characters working together. I feel that's a wasted opportunity. The acting isn't top tier for the most part either. It's never bad, but sometimes it's not so good. But that being said, everything else is amazing. The writing takes a back seat, so that doesn't really bug me. The action is so good in this movie. The Battle of Scarif is so cool. Not just Scarif though, all the action is great. The visuals are also amazing. This is the best looking Star Wars movie by far. Also the hallway scene. I don't need to explain myself. I also really like the characters. The writing isn't amazing for them, but they all manage to be a bunch of badasses. Chirrut, Krennic, K2, Jin, and Cassian are particular standouts, and the writing is better than the others. It's not fantastic, but it's better. I give Rogue One a score of 75 to 80%, and an ironic score of 95 to 100%. Second place, we have the original, the classic, A New Hope. Star Wars would not exist if this movie wasn't good, and if people didn't like this movie, pop culture would be completely different. So many people, including me, would be completely different. What is there to say about this movie? It's fantastic. It's so fun and memorable. The characters, the world, the action, the humor, it's great. The writing's not fantastic, but let's be honest, that's the point. It's making fun of older sci-fi like Flash Gordon and whatnot. It just works. It's such a fun movie and there's a little bit of nostalgia talking there, but it's just so great. Also, the trench run is the best space battle in Star Wars. This was the peak. We have not surpassed it. I give this movie a 90 to 95% and an ironic score of 95 to 100%. And now we've reached the end, finally. It's Empire Strikes Back. You already knew that. It's the only one I haven't talked about. Empire Strikes Back is my second favorite movie ever made. It can't quite beat Jurassic Park because dinosaurs, but it's very, very close. It's fantastic. The writing, the action, the characters, just everything is so good. Also, it's the only movie where the special editions aren't a horrible abomination. Cloud City actually looks better in the special edition, don't at me. The duel between Vader and Luke is also great, it's really good. Han and Leia's relationship is the best love story in Star Wars as well. I mean, not that there's very good competition. The Battle of Hoth is my favorite battle in all of Star Wars. That's not true. In the live action movies, it's my favorite one. This movie is genuinely one of the best movies ever made, and it's definitely the best sequel ever made. I give this movie a 95 to 100% with the exact same ironic score. So yeah, that brings us to the end of our list. I really don't know what Rise of Skywalker is going to be like, and I don't even know if I'm excited or not, but we'll see, I suppose. Just please don't screw it up. I'm begging you. I'm absolutely begging you. Please, 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 please be good. But I digress. Thank you so much for watching. You can check out my Marvel video if you want, and you can watch our watch through of the prequels. Like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And follow me on Instagram or whatever. I'll see you all next time. Bye.